Spoiler alert for anybody who has not yet read Fire Force. If you're anime only and you have not caught up with Fire Force's manga, which is now done, spoiler alert, go away now and come back when you've already consumed it. Shinra is Lord Death's daddy. What in God's name did I just read? Fire Force is such a weird manga. Now, I made a video not how many months ago? A while ago, maybe a month or two ago, discussing the weird real life stuff that happens with Sister Sumire when they all get sucked up into the Adola. Things don't go quite as weird as that. But what a wild ride Fire Force is. I knew, I'm going to be up right here. I'm going to be right up here with this. I knew that Fire Force was a prequel to Soul Eater. I had to think about it for a second. I knew it was. However, how everything kind of comes about, I had no idea, which is really, really good. I'm glad that I didn't get spoiled on anything. Now, there are a lot of like hints and nods throughout the manga that kind of start setting this up. That like at first you start with like, oh, skulls, that kind of imagery. And I guess you're supposed to think, hey, it's the same artist, it's the same creator, so why not put in some iconography that makes sense? Whatever. It's around the time when the cataclysm is about to happen anyways, and you get a bunch of the doppelgangers showing up, and all those pillars start popping up, and then the moon turns into the moon from Soul Eater, and I'm thinking, well, duh. But I didn't quite get just how weird this is all gonna go. So I'm not gonna do a full-on review thing where I break it down. There's a lot to discuss. But I do want to point out Shinra becoming a god is so weird. And I will say this. The only thing I was not super pleased with. Now, okay, that makes it seem like I'm way more upset about it than I am. Arthur going to space. I realized that once the cataclysm starts happening, stuff starts getting warped and whatever. And it's like reason and reality starts becoming less important. However, I think that the whole thing with him being able to breathe in space is a little much. I'm glad that they brought up the fact that like, oh, he's in space. And once he realizes he's in space, he starts suffocating and whatever. But like, what about like the ring? Just because his imagination is just so wild, he's able to just do it? Okay. So that kind of bothered me a little bit. I just can't get over. So the end of the series is Shinra, his brother Sho, and their mom facing off against Haumea and the Evangelist, who is... Well, okay, so technically their mom is the doppelganger of the Evangelist, I guess. Either way, Haumea and the Evangelist kind of like merge together. And the whole thing is that the cataclysm's going off. There's a bunch of different doppelgangers showing up. Yeah, there's some really, really good fights. I actually really liked the fight. What's his face? It's Kurano versus himself, and I really, really liked Benimaru versus his dad. That's super good. I like that a lot. Those are super awesome fights. I love it. I love everything about that. One fight that I didn't particularly care for was the fight between Tamaki and Assault. I thought it was kind of a bit much. There's a whole thing about like, oh, Tamaki and her like lecher lucky whatchamacallit where she gets naked and whatever. And I thought that was kind of dumb about like, oh, Hope and Lude. I don't know. It was a bit much. Also, did it imply that she gets naked on purpose? Or is that maybe not implied, but like just straight out say that like her lucky lecher thing is like a purposeful thing? She does it on purpose just to mess with people or something? I don't know. It's weird. I didn't care for it. I thought it was kind of a low point as far as the fights are concerned. That being said, there's some really weird stuff that happens in this fight too. So, well, adjacent to the fight, right? There's a whole thing with this kid. I forget who's talking to him. He's talking to Licht, and he wills his mother out of existence, just straight up. She poofs, she disappears. He says, I'm an established character. The amount of times that this manga suddenly starts breaking the fourth wall is kind of jarring because they don't do it a whole lot in the beginning of the series. Okubo, like, is just writing a regular series or writing a regular, like, shonen manga, and then suddenly halfway through is just like, you know what? What if I introduced real life still images and fourth wall meta, like, breaking stuff and just said, you know what? Whatever. It is what it is. And so this kid completely erases his mom because at one point his name was said, so he became an established character. And because she had never really been introduced. Now, granted, I think they say her name at some point, but she spends her entire time like slut shaming Tamaki, which is not cool. I didn't care for the fight, but I don't care for that for her either, for the mom. And so this kid just says, "Yo, I'm an established character. Get out of here. You're just mom. You're just a background character. Get out of here." And suddenly she just disappears, and Lick's just like, hold on. What just happened? And I'm right there with Licht. Also, I really, really liked Licht. Licht is honestly one of my favorite characters in this. I like him. I like Vulcan. Obi's great. Like, obviously, you get like Shinra, and he's like the main character, and Arthur's an idiot and whatever. But I liked Licht, I liked Obi, I liked Vulcan. I think those three are like standout characters. Honestly, I know technically Hibana is like, oh, she's kind of filling that archetype of, oh, she looks down on others and whatever. And when she's introduced, she like is like sitting on a chair of men, and there's that whole thing. But I like her depth with her and Iris and like their backstory with the like the nunnery. I really liked what Okubo did with them. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but that's because I didn't really come into this with a plan. I just wanted to talk about this. I didn't want to talk about the ending specifically, but the ending specifically is nuts. So aside from all like the individual fights, you get Sho, Shinra and his mom and their mom in Adola. The world is going to flame because Haumea is basically just like, all right, set it ablaze. Everything's happening. And some of them like Benimaru and Conro are just like, if we're going down, we're going down together. Other shots, we see people freaking out because the flames are encroaching on them. And this is after like, everybody's been like, we can't despair. We have to go on. We have to keep moving. We have to hope. And for a while, after they defeat some of the doppelgangers, it kind of works out. But things start going sideways and the world entirely gets engulfed in flames. Also, okay, I already touched on this a little bit. Even though I didn't really care for like the logic behind Arthur's fight with Dragon, as far as them being in space, I think it's an awesome fight. Arthur's fight with Dragon is kind of insane, and I don't understand, even if reality is kind of shifting and getting weird, and it's like, oh, okay, he can fight in space with that ring that he had with him. Why did his body parts start coming back? I don't understand that. Was he affected by Shinra's kajiggering of the universe, I guess? But he already had his body parts back, because he gets like his lower half completely like removed and like his left arm burned off and whatever. Either way, I love their fight. I liked his conviction and the fact that when he finally comes back during Shinra's fight with Haumea, or fight, I guess, because there's a lot of talking at the end of this series. But during their final conflict, he comes back and basically just whacks Shinra on the head with his sword from outer space, mind you, and says, "Yo, you gotta keep moving." And that kind of kicks Shinra in the butt to kind of keep going. Let's focus on Shinra's final conflict, because again, there is some fighting per se, but it's not a lot of fighting. It's not like So when we talk about Benimaru versus dad or Kurano versus himself, it's like them actually fighting. This is like Shinra just trying to get through to Haumea and like teach her that despair is not the end, and that like death is not necessarily salvation just because maybe people are suffering in life, right? And so for a while, Shinra and his brother Sho have a hard time getting through to her. They can't hit her because for whatever reason, they're just like phasing right through her and they just can't seem to get her. That is until they perform a soul resonance. They the three of them, Shinra, Sho, and their mom, and who is like a weird, crazy lizard lady now. I guess she's just like that permanently. I don't know why Shinra couldn't rewrite her stuff to make her not a lizard lady, but they fused together to become Shinra Bancho Man, which I think the wiki considers to be a completely different person altogether, like as if like Vegito was a different person altogether from Vegeta and Goku. And I don't get that because it's like even more so in this case because it's like Shinra is the main body. He kind of grows some wicked horns and like kind of goes, you know what he kind of looks like? He kind of looks like Ashura from Ashura's Wrath. And so he gets like some kind of crazy looking horns, and he's kind of in control of the body at this point. And again, a lot of this is just talking, honestly. And Shinra's just like, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep trying to recreate the world, regardless of what you say, Haumea. And so he just does it. He's just like God at this point. And so he grows a bunch of flowers and basically extinguishes all of the flames. But then he takes it a step further and he resurrects everybody. And not just everybody that recently died, but even like Benimaru's dad and Vulcan's dad and his brother. And like, I think he just kind of like brought back a very specific amount of people and then recreated the world as a whole, making it into the Soul Eater world. And the final chapters that occur are basically like an epilogue kind of thing. We get, apparently, because he recreated the world, so now there's no more fire stuff going on. Nobody can control fire or create fire. There's no more combustion. It's just not happening. No more fire, unless I guess one of your powers is going to be fire going forward. But there's no more like pyrokinesis stuff going on. But that does not mean that everybody is normal. It gets weird. So some of the characters had like body parts cut off. Obi had his neck sliced, which, by the way, holy crap. I honestly wish that I was reading this week to week because that is such an unbelievable cliffhanger to leave people on for a week. Obi's doppelganger showing up and then just like coming up behind him and slicing his neck. Oh my God. In any event, Shinra recreates the world. He is basically a god at this point. Don't ask me why, he just is. And he recreates the world and it's weird and gothic. And basically what he's done is he says he's made life worth less. And now the world is a world of death, which given that it is Soul Eater now, it is the world of Soul Eater. Yeah. And at that point, so with Obi, like his neck has to get stitched so that he can like not be like flip-flopping around. I forget, one of the characters had like the top of their head cut off and then he just had to like put it back on. So everybody's really weird at this point. Nobody has their fire powers, but everybody's kind of gotten some weird buffs. Some people got buffs in terms of strength or whatever, and some people are completely normal. I think it's implied, or at least said in some capacity, that like Tamaki and what's his face, Juggernaut, whatever his real name is, they're just average people now. And also, it's not lost on me that Tamaki looks like Maka, and they both have like Mach in there. Like their names are very similar. So I wonder if there's maybe something there. I don't think it's specifically said in one way or another, but maybe Tamaki and Juggernaut are Maka's ancestors. Who knows? In any event, Shinra makes Lord Death. He's like, yo, listen, life is going to be worth a little less, so maybe people will like kind of value it more or have more fun or whatever, and they won't be despairing anymore. But we need something to give people, like, religion is like people believing in something, right? So he makes Lord Death in like a literal sense. There's a literal god. If people are going to worship a god, there at least there's going to be somebody very specific that they can worship. And he makes Lord Death, and he looks like this weird like pillar. He looks like a pillar thing with like a bunch of spikes coming off of him, and he takes everybody's ability to like control fire. He takes all of their things and all of their souls, or at least like the souls of their fight. I don't know, whatever. He takes their ability to be pyrokinetics, and it's funny. And it's funny because then God, like Lord Death is like, well, I guess he goes by God at this point, but Lord Death is just like, yo, I'm a peace out now. But if you need to call me, here's my number. And he gives them the number that you can use to call Lord Death in Soul Eater. It all comes together. So skipping forward, the last few chapters are basically like full-on epilogue. It turns out that, like, again, people have changed in some capacity. Some people are normal, but some people have like Obi apparently is like super powered now. He is strong enough to flip the earth itself upside down or whatever. And so he's got a whole thing going on. And the Fire Force has now been reformed into a like expedition group or whatever. I forget what it's called. It's something. Oh, it's called World Heroes Force, and basically it's like anybody who wanted to be part of it from the Fire Force could join. Obi being the commander, the general commander of it, and then you have Benimaru being the supreme combat commander, with Conroe being his like vice captain or whatever. Naturally, a bunch of the eighth company joined. You got Licht, you got Vulcan, Hinawa's joined up, and basically they're like doing their own thing, and obviously Shinra and Arthur join, and what's his face? I don't know, the guy that makes like he could put on tattoos to make himself stronger with his fire. So they join, and their job is to search the world. They're heroes, first of all, and so they're there to help people whenever needed, but also to investigate the new world that Shinra has made, which is super cool. It's like an expedition team of sorts. Also, I really like their cloaks because they got like, it's kind of like, honestly, they kind of look like the crowns, like the tips, like, so the sleeves, for instance, they have this pattern around it that kind of looks like the crown from like Kingdom Hearts in a way, where it's got like the circular like things going on. I know it's technically supposed to be like Lord Death's face, I guess, but either way, in the end, okay, so now that we've gotten to this point, the last two chapters, I know I said I wasn't gonna like break stuff down, but this is the freshest thing in the world. I knew it was coming. I knew it was gonna happen at some point, especially once I heard that it was a prequel to Soul Eater. Arthur's sword. He has such a big connection with his sword, Excalibur, that during like the Reformation, the like recreation of the world and the universe and whatever that Shinra is doing, his sword manifests a personality on its own and becomes Excalibur from Soul Eater, making Arthur the first ever Meister, I guess. I mean, we don't have any other characters to like compare, right? He is the first Meister to ever exist, period. And I love that, like, Arthur's personality rubbed off on Excalibur, and he's just as annoying as Arthur because he's so boisterous and, like, up his own butt. I love that. I love the connection. It makes so much sense. And also, they make a point of saying, like, Shinra's like, yep, he's just like Arthur. He's so annoying. Also, Inca is a witch now. Also, is she the ancestor of Medusa and Corona? Now, I know that Medusa does not have pink hair. Corona does have pink hair, and Inca, when she first was introduced, she wore a hoodie with like eyes on its head. And I'm pretty sure okay, so to skip ahead, she's off being a witch. So then we skip, what was it, 25 whole years? Shinra has become the like supreme commander of the World Heroes Association, whatever the heck it's called. And Arthur shows up with somebody. I don't know. Is this supposed to be Inca? I think it's supposed to be Inca. I'm not entirely sure. I can't tell. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Inca. Because she, I think it's a she, has the hoodie because it's like part of their uniform or whatever, but it's got the eyes on it. So I'm pretty sure that Inca is supposed to be the ancestor of Medusa and Corona. I would tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems she's a witch. And then also she's got like the hood with the eyes on it. That like the only thing that makes sense to me. The final few panels, the final few pages that we get in this series is a transition to even further into the future, in which Lord Death is basically birthing Kid, and I guess apparently he made him in the image of Shinra. I don't necessarily see it other than the fact that they both have short black hair, but whatever. And then we get some like shots at like kids like the kid versions of like Black Star and Soul, and Maka's reading with her parents. Have we ever seen her mom before? Is this the first time that we're seeing her mom? I don't know. I didn't read the manga of Soul Eater until like I started reading the second half where the anime starts splitting off. So I don't know if like earlier in the manga you ever see her mom before. Or for that matter, if we ever see her. Either way, the point is, next is Soul World. That is unbelievable. This is such a weird and honestly such an unexpected. It's so weird. It's such a weird manga. I loved Fire Force. I absolutely loved it. If you have not read it, I don't know why you're watching this. I'm spoiling you on everything. I already told you to leave now. But you should read Fire Force. People should read Fire Force. If you know people that like manga, you should recommend Fire Force. Fire Force is so good, and it's such a it's so unexpectedly weird in the second half. Also, I really like that the headquarters of the World Hero whatever is set up around the 8th Company's old fire station cathedral thing. At first, I thought it might be that's where Lord Death City is. That doesn't make any sense though, because the Fire Force was located in Japan. Death City is in Phoenix or something like that, Phoenix, Arizona. So I think they're just very similarly looking. I'm just kind of really, it's so surprising. I love this. I love this series. It's so unexpected. I'm down with it. I am down 100% with this. I think I'm going to leave it there. I enjoyed this series a lot. I know I didn't want to spend a lot of time breaking chapters down because it's there's a lot and I read a lot and I probably missed a ton of stuff that I would have otherwise wanted to talk about. But I'm going to leave it there. I enjoyed Fire Force. Honestly, when I finished reading last night or the night prior to this recording, I actually got that feeling you get when you finish a series and you feel a little empty. It was such a wild ride and so weird and wonderful. And Okubo really wrote something maybe not perfect, but so cool. Also, Inka wanting to have Shinra's baby is really, really weird. And not because it's oh, she's fallen in love with her, just because she wanted it. It's really, really weird. I'm going to leave it at that. I would love to have a conversation about Fire Force with people down below in the comments section. So leave a comment. Let's chit chat. If you liked anything I had to say, or if you like Fire Force, make sure to leave a like. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you want to see more videos like this in general, whether it be about Fire Force or about other manga or Pokemon, make sure to subscribe. I would also greatly appreciate that. I will see you guys hopefully very soon in another video. So long.